this video, we're going to take a look at how to create micro worlds. Digital miniature worlds are art forms which are like this, where you create or you try to recreate a slice of land using your digital software. It is usually done using a 3D package, but we are going to try a different method. We're going to use Photoshop to create this. But to make the process a lot easier, we are going to create a template, a 3D template using Cinema 4D. You can use any 3D application for that. And then we are going to use Photoshop to build our miniature scene. So let's get started. We are going to create the template first using Cinema 4D. Here we are in Cinema 4D, and I'm going to go here and create a floor, right? And on that, I'm going to create a box. So we have a 3D box right here, and this is going to be the base of our miniature world. So I'm going to place it right here. I'm going to change my camera angle a bit. So the whole idea of making this in 3D is that we can get the right volume, right shadows, and also we'll get an easy guide to build our 3D scene, and it will look more realistic based on the camera that we are setting up. So the whole process, when we are taking this image to Photoshop and when we are working on the miniature, the whole flow becomes really easier. So let's add some material so that we can render the scene out. I'm going to go and click any material. Okay, we have the scene. So we need some shadow. So I'm going to create a light. I'm going to use an HDRI map to light this scene. So I'm going to go to HDRI Haven. I think this works pretty good. I'm going to download the 1K version of this. I think that's more than enough for our scene. I'm going to add this HDR to Cinema 4D. And I'm going to create a sky. So go here and create a sky and drag and drop the HDRI to the sky. So right now, the scene is lit by the HDRI map right in here. So we have everything set. I just have to do a little bit of render tweaking here. So I'm going to go here, change the render engine to physical. I'm going to go to add and add an ambient occlusion, and also I'm going to add a global illumination. So once this is all done, we can render out our scene, and let's see how realistic the whole setup is. So rendering is done. We can now open this in Photoshop and use this as a reference to create our miniature world. So I'm going to close Cinema 4D and we are going to go to Photoshop. Now we have the scene that we rendered from Cinema 4D here. This is a perfect template to start with. So rather than creating it directly, trying to recreate a 3D object and the shadows in Photoshop, this is a much faster and efficient way. And also it will give you accurate shadows, accurate lighting, and accurate camera angle. So we have that set. Now what we need to do is use this as a template and try to bring in real images to build our scene. So what I want to do is to recreate a beach scene, a seascape. So I'm going to go in and download an image of sea. So let's go to an image source, download sea. And here we can find a lot of images. So I think this might actually work there. So download this. I'm going to take that image, drag and drop it into our scene, and scale it down and place it like this. So we have our image right on the scene, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to name it C so that we can see this clearly and rasterize that. I'm going to hide it for a second. We basically need to take this as a selection and use that selection to cut that part of the C to place it on top of it. So we can try and use the magic wand tool here. So I'm going to select this. So it's actually selecting a bit here as well. I don't need this. I just need this part. So to do what I'm going to do is I can try and reduce the tolerance here. Yeah, I think 10 actually works pretty well. Now I'm going to go back to the C layer, right click this, right, and do a layer copy. So we got that position separately from the rest of the scene, rest of the image. So we have just the top layer right now set, and it's looking pretty cool. So now what we need is to build this particular scene. So what we need to do is we can actually try and bring in a little bit of dirt texture and see how this actually looks. So I'm going to go in and search for some dirt. So I like this image. It actually works. It looks like the underground layer or something. I'm going to save this image as well. I'm going to bring this also to Photoshop. So let's bring it right here. Now, this is actually a straight image, but we don't want it to look straight. We want this in the level of this, right? We want it in that perspective to fill that area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the distort tool here. So to get this working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the opacity of this a bit. I'm going to rasterize this layer so that we can distort this particular layer. So press Ctrl T to bring the bounding box, right click to choose distort, and you can control the corner points to make it match with the background layer, the 3D layer that we have, and it sort of fits perfectly there. So let's bring back the opacity, and it fits right there, right? Now we have the right perspective, right? We can do the same thing once again for the other side. So let's scale down this a bit. We are going to bring this up and reduce the scaling, distort, and adjust the corner points. So that's also done, but there is one single problem, right? Because here you can look at the light. The way that light behaves is that this area is dark because the light is actually coming from here. It's hitting this side and the shadow is falling on this side. So when we are actually putting a layer on top of it, it cannot be this bright. It needs to be darker than this side. So we need to make this a little darker. So I'm going to select the levels and bring down the levels of this so it looks more realistic and darker. So now it actually works. So we filled all the layers and it is looking pretty cool. It looks like a slice from the earth. But at the same time, we can do a little bit of modifications here, right? Because this is basically a slice from the ocean. So we have created that part in the ocean. So there is definitely going to be some amount of water in this area. It is not going to be just sand right after one layer of water. So we need to bring in that in here. So to do that, I'm going to take water, look for some water texture. Okay, I think this looks very interesting. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it right here. Let's do the same thing that we did earlier, right? So I'm going to reduce the opacity. Let's distort the layer. So let's go to distort and let's sort of match it with this. So yeah, I think the match works sort of. And let's bring back the opacity and we have that layer, but we don't want it to be fully covering it. So what we are going to do is we are slowly going to erase the parts that we don't actually require in the scene. So I'm just going to take the eraser brush and I'm going to erase some portion here, right? So we are sort of getting the water to just a little bit and we can start to see the ground underneath it immediately, right? So that is the effect that we basically want. So it is looking pretty good. We'll adjust the colors a bit later. I'm going to take one more layer of this water because we need this to be applied on the other side as well. So I'm going to take this, reduce the opacity, use distort to match the scene. So go here. So we have the scene pretty much set. We have a little bit of water going down and we have the rest of the sand as well. We have built the base of the world. We need some more information here. We need to add a little bit of point of interest into the scene. So I'm going to bring in a boat and sort of manage it to match with what's in a scene. A little bit of curve. Yeah, that looks pretty cool, right? So we have a scene and we have added some sort of depth into the scene. We can keep adding elements into the scene. So this is basically how you build, a template in Cinema 4D for your 3D miniature slice, and then you're bringing it to Photoshop. Use that as a template and fill it with real textures to create some beautiful looking miniature worlds. So I hope this tutorial was helpful and I want you to try it and let me know your thoughts. I'll see you with a new video. Until then, bye.